and told my husband, just go to the flea market without me. I'm going to stay here and rest. And I heard him downstairs getting ready to leave. And all I could think about was a big glass of Coca-Cola over ice. I was so thirsty. So I managed to get out of bed, go to this railing. I asked him to bring me a soda as he came back to town because that's something we typically don't keep in the house. And I turned to go into a little half bathroom, and that's the last thing I remembered. It was lights out for me. I was no longer in the physical plane. I was standing on the side of a snow-capped mountain range. And in between the two mountain ranges was the greenest valley you could ever imagine. And people talk about the colors on the other side as being indescribable. And this is absolutely true. What I experienced goes beyond human description. The colors were so vibrant, so beautiful, so encompassing. And I felt as though I was part of this environment, that I was really not a physical form any longer, that I was an energetic part of the whole scene. And as I took all of this in, I looked back into this beautiful green valley, and in the midst was this gigantic tree. And the tree spoke to me. It beckoned me to come to it. And when I had those thoughts, I was under the tree, standing on this green grass. At this point, I was surrounded by animals. I could feel the love coming from all of these animals. It was just the most beautiful, beautiful feeling and belonging. I had no thoughts of my physical form or my physical life. I was there, and I knew that's where I was supposed to be, that's where I belonged, with these beautiful creatures that loved me. And as these feelings built within me, the animals parted, and out from the midst came my Rottweiler, Holly, who had passed away on the Thursday night, or really early Friday morning of that same day that I had the stomach pop, or the stomach pain. But the Holly that I was seeing under this majestic tree appeared to be in her youth, maybe about 2 or 3 years old. She looked like she did, shortly after I first got her. She was shiny, she was vibrant, she was so happy to see me. Her little body was wiggling and her tail was wagging back and forth, and I just fell to my knees and I started crying, and I embraced her because I'd never expected to see Holly again. I just lost her, and here she was, alive, and she was licking the tears from my face, and it was just absolutely beautiful, and the love, truly what is indescribable. And as I'm in this scene, far, far in the distance, I could hear my name being called. I recognized that it was my husband's voice, and he kept calling my name over and over, and I sensed the fear in his voice, and that grabbed me, I guess, at a physical level. And when I gave into that voice, I found myself being pulled backwards from that scene, back from Holly, back from all the animals, the tree, and back into the physical form. I opened my eyes, and my husband said, "Don't move, the paramedics are on the way." It was at that point that I had like a split in my consciousness. And in the ICU, where they immediately took me and began, all these procedures, that I could feel I was also watching that from above. And I imagine that was a full coding, because at that point, I left the physical form completely and was 100% spirit energy. As in the valley, I was pulled back from that scene, and by this brilliant white light, and I was in a garden, a beautiful garden. Again, the grass so incredibly green, beautiful trees lining the garden, flowers growing. The colors truly are indescribable, and the feeling that you're part of this fabric of life and energy. I did not feel separated from it. I was part of it. I walked the garden and came upon a beautifully carved wooden bench. So I took a seat there. And as I'm sitting there, I see a mist forming off in the distance. And as the mist comes towards me, it starts to take a physical form of a Buddhist monk. He was clothed in an orange robe, head was shorn, his feet were bare. He had like a pinkish orange sort of cloth wrapped around the body. And he appeared to be maybe early 40s, mid 40s. And he came and sat beside me on the bench and introduced himself. His name was Hoche. And Hoche told me that I was in the garden, and this is where I come in my life between lives. And when I'm in the garden, Hoche is my guide. And he explained that I come there to learn the healing arts, how to heal at an energetic level plants and animals, and eventually the human form. But at this point, I was at the place of learning the plant and animal healing. And we stood up and walked a short distance to overlook this beautiful green meadow that was full of other types of animals like sheep and cows and goats. I was engulfed in their energy and in their love. And that's the point that, I want to keep making, is that there's just so much love on the other side, so much interconnectedness to our soul level. I knew that this is where I belong. So I'm enjoying this scene, and I turn, and Hoche is observing me, and I walk towards him, and, I asked him, I said, this is different. I was in a beautiful green valley between two snow-capped mountain ranges earlier, under a tree surrounded by all kinds of animals. Where did they go? And he explained that the valley is the place that I first go as an entryway into the garden. Maybe like a gateway or a passageway or a bridge into this life between lives. But my husband had called me back. Suddenly, I can only describe it as like a veil coming over that scene. It was like this shimmering, almost the colors of like an abalone shell, these beautiful shimmering colors coming down this curtain. And so that scene was closing. And we walked back into the garden, and I looked at Hoche, And he nodded because I knew that I was being like brought back, that I wasn't allowed to go any further into that scene. And as I'm coming to consciousness, I'm being scrubbed down, and it's quite painful. There were two nurses standing over me. They were scrubbing down my chest, and I managed to ask, what's happening? What are you doing? And one said that they were preparing me for surgery. But she looked at the other nurse and she said, get the doctor. So the doctor came in and he said, before we take you to surgery, we're going to do one more endoscopy. He was able to laser the bleeding, which he found through the endoscopy, and that solved the problem. What I learned later in the day, as I became more conscious and aware, was that evening, that Friday evening at work, the pop I felt had been a blood vessel that had burst in my stomach. So I'd actually been bleeding out from Friday night until that Tuesday morning, actually, and ended up staying in the hospital for 5 days. But I was changed. I was completely changed.